to the group level, to the culture level, we are also different. That implies that we need to look at what is peculiar to us and not just generalize Western theories to explaining African behavior. Now, what is indigenous psychology? It is defined as a scientific study of human behavior and mental processes that is neither imported nor exported, but focus on the people's life and culture. Yes, neither imported or exported. So we are talking about a psychology that is based on the values of the people, on the culture of the people, that talks about the psyche of the people. And the funny thing is that the American Psychological Association, the American Psychological Association recognizes indigenous psychology, and they define it as the need for non-Western cultures to solve their local problems through indigenous practices and application, and recognize itself in the construct and practice of psychology. So indigenous culture, non-Western cultures, they have told us we need to identify our problems. We need to talk to our problems and not just use their own theories. But the question is, how long have we been able to do that? Now, the next section is advancements in parapsychology. Now, what is parapsychology? It is a scientific study of interactions between living organisms and their external environment that seem to transcend known physical laws of nature. Now, we'll be saying that psychology is not relevant. It seems not to be too relevant in Africa. Why is it not relevant in Africa? It's because most of us, or most Africans, they believe in the spiritual etiology of every problem that happens. So if we want to really have impact about, if we want to be impactful in Africa, we need to delve into these unexplained spiritual issues that people have, so that we can provide solutions to the problem at hand. Now, I would say that psychology in Africa has not really provided answers to paranormal experience of the people. You know, there are many paranormal experiences. For example, there is a lady that just got an opportunity to travel to UK yesterday. The lady was like, complaining that it's as if there are spiritual problems happening in her family. The father died, the mother died, the grandfather died, the grandmother died, the elder sister died, the sister-in-law died. People were just dying at a part, within sequence. In this kind of instance, she was like thinking, okay, I need to escape from the country. So we can see how paranormal phenomenon can affect the lives of people. So these are the areas that we psychologists, can focus on, because our people believe in supernatural. We believe that it's the supernatural events that control our minds, that control our lives, rather than the physical laws, that governs the world. So, like I said, there is little impact psychology has made in Africa, because our people believe that most of our problems are spiritual and not physical. Now, although when we talk about studying parapsychology, there may be problems with methodology. It may be a school, we may be thinking, how can we study paranormal behavior, paranormal phenomena, things that we cannot see? But I believe that when we are persistent with our questioning, we'll be able to get to the answer one day. And who could imagine that we could have Zoom meeting 100 years ago? Who could imagine? Even our forefathers, when they use it, when they use Opele, they will say that, okay, they can see each other, they can communicate with each other. And is it not the same thing that we are doing through Zoom meeting today? So what I'm trying to say is that this phenomenon that we think that we cannot understand, I believe that over time, when we assess it, when we do findings, we'll be able to understand them. Now to the third section, which is the main topic of today, development of the measure of fear of charm. Now, before I go on with the presentation, I would just like to share a little bit about what informed this topic. I remembered, was it not 5 or 6 years ago, there was an industrial strike by the non-academic staff in our university, and we academics were working. They were not satisfied. What they did was they went to call native doctors, babalawos, to come and infect the whole environment with charm. And the funny thing is that everybody left the university. People couldn't come. Even the vice chancellor, everybody left the university. We were all afraid. It's in fact, the university had to invite pastors from Lagos, to come and do exorcism before people could be able to, start studies in university. So it just came to the mind of me and one of my undergraduate students that look at how a particular behavior or a particular event is happening, is affecting the behavior of people. So we just thought, let us try as much as possible to develop a measure of fear of charm to see people's perception about it. And the picture you are seeing is a picture of a Nigerian that was going to, a picture of the charms carried by a Nigerian that was going to Dubai. Is a female. She carried it, and they were able to, catch her at the airport. So we can see that although we say that we go to church, but people are still much involved in native issues. So what is charm itself? What is the scale all about? First and foremost, we know that charms and magical powers are recognized in many African tribes. It forms the basis of the various traditional religions. So and research has been able to tell us that charms and magical powers, they have psychological effects on the behavior of the people. And both empirical and anecdotal evidences have been able to show us that charms can cause causes, can inflict causes on people. It can lead to spiritual attack. In fact, we have with the Yahoo problem we have today, we have been told that the Yahoo Plus thing is what underneath is the use of charms. We've seen our politicians using charms in public to win public elections, for political gains. Even in armed robbery, we have been able to know that charms is being used in human trafficking. In fact, the United Nations has been able to document this, that there is use of charm in the human trafficking process. So many mysterious disease and mental illness are believed to be caused by charms. And because of this, people have come to fear the existence of charms. Ordinarily, if most people see charms, we know, despite the level of our Christianity or the level of our Islamic faith, we still tend to fear these charms. For example, some people are always afraid of going to their villages. Some people they easily relinquish their ownership of their properties because of the fear of charm. I don't want to die, and some people, in order not to expose themselves to, some people don't expose the evil deeds of others because of fear of being bewitched. Also, the sex trade in Europe is also research has been able to tell us that the sex trade in Europe, what underneath is the use of sex trade in Europe. What underneath is the use of charm. Now, what are I will now talk about the methods and the results of the study. Now, first and foremost, we did item generation, which involves about 12 participants and gave rise to about 23 items. And the sample of the participants were 8 employees and 4 students. It took about 1 hour. So we asked open-ended questions about the meaning, use, reality, power, and fear of charms. And afterwards, we subjected the items that we have phrased into content validity, and using the Losch's formula, the content ratio formula, we were able to discard 2 items, from the initial 23 items that were formed, and we multiplied about 12 items. Afterwards, we subjected the remaining items into subjecting into exploratory factor analysis using about 655 participants. And samples were drawn from both Federal University of Oye and Funai. And the items that we derived from current validity, they were 21. We removed 2 items were removed. Now for the EFA that we conducted, the extraction method and registration method were principal axis for factoring and the obliming method. And using from the EFA, we were able to generate three factors for the 21 items based on their clusters. So the general fear of charm, for example, one of the items is I may not want to visit my kinsmen in the village because of fear of being harmed or bewitched. Now we also have the charm proximity fear. For example, as an employee, I may not work for someone who is known to possess charms because of fear of spiritual attack. And the charm object fear, I might be afraid of picking up and throwing away charms placed on my personal object. Now, for reliability of the scale, we obtained 0.75 for test result reliability. For each of the subscale and the full scale, the reliability question were between 0.75 to 0.83, and the sample we used were front level psychology students of Federal University of Oye. And for the internal consistency, we obtained reliability coefficient from 0.79 to 0.89 for the subscales and the full scale, and the factor scores were between the factor correlation were between 0.44 to 0.57. Now, for the convergence and discriminant validity, we use 2 scales. One is the revised paranormal belief scale, and the second is the Duke social support scale. Now, for convergence validity, we utilize the revised paranormal belief scale. The reason we use this scale is because this scale measures conceptualized paranormal beliefs according to 7 dimensions. For example, traditional religious belief, pre-recognition, witchcrafts, and not the sort. So we believe that these kind of items we should to correlate positively with fear of charm items. And for the discriminant validity, we use the Duke social support scale. We believe that items with social support should relate relatively lower to fear of charm compared to items measuring paranormal belief. And for convergence validity, we got 0.31 validity coefficient, and for discriminant validity, we got minus 0.10, which confirms our hypothesis. Now, this is the model for the three subscales: the general fear of charm scale, the charm proximity fear, the charm proximity fear, and the charm object fear. And we found out that the model fits the data of the study. And let me talk a little bit about the sample we use. We use 508 secondary school teachers with 34.05 as mean age, and majority of participants, they were from Southwest Nigeria. And we also conducted an invariance test to know whether this model of fear of charm is different according to sex, age, religion, and ethnicity. I found that there was no difference except according to age. So we realized that both young and old, they perceive fear of charm from different perspectives. Now, the discussion and the conclusion. So, is the fear of charm scale psychometrically sound to measure the fear of charm? Yes, at least from the reliability and validity coefficients. And we come to know that the 3-factor structure sheds light on how fear of charm can be understood. First, fear of charm can occur when perceived to be in close range. That is a charm proximity subscale. And also, fear of charm can occur when it is objectively present. That is, when people see it presently, when people see it physically within their environment, it can trigger fear. And also, fear can be generalized into different life situations. Now, like I said, we found out that the fear of charm scale is valuable irrespective of sex, religion, and ethnicity. The only exception is the age difference. Now, the weakness of the limitation of the study is that we may not be able to generalize our findings to northern Nigeria because we didn't use any participants from those from that part of the country. And we also encourage future studies to test the validity of the scale in other non-Western cultures. The importance of this scale is that it can be related to other psychological variables such as self-esteem, such as trust, paranoia, religiosity, religious belief, organizational behaviors, leadership, psychological well-being, and so on. So now we can be confident that it is scientifically possible to measure the fear of charm. It can be measured, within the African context. We have always thought that this is a very subjective area of study, which might not be understood. But like I said, over time, we'll continue to develop our tools and understand how these events occur within our culture. So for a more comprehensive information about this scale, we can visit this URL. The study was published in Psychological Studies. That was in 2020. And these are the other co-authors. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Olawa. Thank you, participants. Thank you, panelists, for staying for this long.